Sup folks, this is the part 1 of What If Deku was a quirkless villain. Try to guess the inspiration. Chapter 1. Chapter 1, Alone and Broken. Can someone without a quirk be a hero? Asked Midoriya. His teacher's voice broke his train of thought. You guys are all third years now, it's time to start thinking about your careers and future seriously. I want to hand out these career forms, but I assume you all want to be heroes. He said as threw the papers in the air. Midoriya always wanted to be a hero. It was his dream, but he was born quirkless. On top of that, his childhood best friend became his bully, even giving him the nickname Deku, meaning useless. Deku made Izuku's life a living hell by teasing him, abusing him, and belittling his once best friend. You're aiming for a 2, aren't you, Midoriya? Deku and the rest of the class turned to look at Midoriya. They all laughed at the idea of Midoriya becoming a hero, but Deku turned and slammed his hand on Midoriya's desk while adding an explosion, making him fall back on his chair. Forget them, you're quirkless, you're below everyone else, and you think you can keep up with me? Screamed Deku as he drove Midoriya to the back of the class. It's always been my dream, and I thought I could try the entrance exam and try, said Midoriya in a low voice as the class mocked him. After school, Midoriya was on his phone. All Might, the #1 hero in Japan as well as his idol, was spotted nearby. Midoriya picked up his hero notebook, but not before Deku swiped it out of his hand. Midoriya reached out to grab it, but Deku had already burned it. What I'm trying to say is, don't you dare go to U.A. nerd, said Deku as he put his hand on Izuku's uniform and started using his quirk to burn Midoriya's uniform. As Deku was walking out the door with his friends, he said the words that would change Midoriya's fate forever. If you want to be a hero so bad, I've got an idea that might save you some time. If you think you'll have a quirk in your next life, go jump off a roof, Deku said to Midoriya. Midoriya wanted to fight back, but he couldn't. How could he? Midoriya only mustered an angry look with tears filling up his eyes. Deku sneered at Midoriya and showed off his quirk. Midoriya stood in homeroom all alone, crying and afraid, with no friends to turn to, no shoulder to cry on except his mother. She is the only person in this world who is there for him. But it's not enough. Midoriya went outside to go pick up his notebook, and he began having thoughts that no middle schooler should ever have. Why is he allowed to this to me in front everyone, in front of the teachers? They just let him do what he wants. I may be quirkless ... but I'm human too. I'm human, aren't I? Midoriya thought as the tears clouded his eyes. Later that day, I don't think so, kid, said All Might. A pro should be willing to risk his life at any moment. Without a quirk you'll just get hurt, or even worse, All Might said firmly to Midoriya. All Might's words made Midoriya freeze up. All his dreams, aspirations, all his hope was being crushed. If you want to help people become a police officer, they get a lot of hate because they lock up the criminals that pros have taken care of, but it is admirable work. It's okay to dream, kid, however you have to be realistic, said All Might with a sigh. Even All Might said it, the #1 hero. Don't cry, you knew this already, and because you knew you still, and yet you tried so damn hard, Midoriya said as he began to cry, his eyes glazed with tears. Midoriya noticed a crowd begin to crowd around an alley, but this time he turned away and walked home. No thoughts filled his mind, no more ambitions, not anymore. Go. Midoriya greeted him. Hey sweetie, how was school? She said, happy her son came home. Her husband worked overseas. Midoriya put on his fake smile and told her, good mom, I met All Might today, can you believe it? Said Midoriya. Anko smiled and hugged her son. He had always wanted to meet All Might. Little did she know this was the night that she would lose her son. Izuku was alone in his room. It was 10 p.m. He was finally ready. He got all the things he needed and finished up his apology letter. Inside was his reasons why, a location, and his entire life's savings, a total of 500,000 yen. I'm sorry, Mom, Midoriya said as he crept through his window. Midoriya arrived to a rooftop at 12:35 a.m. The same rooftop where his dreams were crushed. He took off his shoes, stood at the edge, his notebook in hand. He grasped it tightly and jumped. Am I dead? Thought Midoriya. He expected death. Instead he was greeted with something much more terrifying. As Midoriya slowly opened his eyes, they grew wide at the sight of a crooked and disgusting-looking blade on his neck. The man wielding the blade wore a torn-up red scarf with multiple blades holstered all over his body, and he had eyes that were filled with murderous intent and malice. It was Stain, the hero killer. Out of instinct, Midoriya tried to scramble backwards but felt a pain in his right arm and realized that his arm broke from the fall. Stain steps forward slowly and speaks in a raspy, demanding voice. "Who are you? And why did you attack me?" Izuku choked up and couldn't muster up any words. "Answer me now unless you want to die here," Stain shouted. Afraid, Midoriya managed to choke up some words. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry, I just..." Midoriya said nervously. He couldn't finish his sentence. How could he say he wanted to commit suicide like it was nothing? Stain lifted his blade. You just what?" shouted Stain. "I tried to kill myself. Okay, please let me die already," explained Midoriya in a sad tone. Stain was surprised, to say the least. He thought this boy was trying to attack him, but it was just a teen who wanted to end it all. Stain, realizing the boy posed no threat, put his sword away and knelt down so he could look at this boy in the eye. "Why did you do it?" Stain asked in a more calm voice. Midoriya wondered if he should even tell him, but after thinking about it he came to the conclusion, the hero killer does not gain anything by knowing, so he ultimately decided to tell him. "It started when I was born without a quirk." Midoriya explained his whole life story except his conversation with All Might. "That's what's wrong with this society. A quirk determines what you are in this world now. Fake heroes and mindless criminals pollute this world now." Stain scowled. Midoriya was a bit surprised at what he was hearing, to say the least. Stain was right. Every day more and more heroes became heroes for selfish reasons, only in it for the fame and wealth, and the amount of criminals had also increased dramatically. The silence was broken by Stain yet again. "Hey, what's up? That notebook?" Stain asked. Izuku didn't realize he was still holding on to his notebook. "Oh, it's my hero analysis notebook. I record quirks and the possible uses, upgrades, and weaknesses, but I don't need it now." "Want to see it?" responded Midoriya as he lifted his notebook to Stain. Stain knew after hearing his life story Midoriya could have been a true hero. His reason to be one was so noble. Stain received the notebook and began to read every single page, becoming more and more interested each page he turned. "Wow, these are so detailed. You have a real talent. It's amazing. The amount of data behind these notes are incredible," said Stain as he kept looking through the notebook. A subtle crooked smile began to form. Izuku was surprised and happy. Someone finally acknowledged him for something he did. "Really? You think so? I worked hard on them. My favorite is page 175. I think Camu's ability is amazing," said Midoriya happily. Stain then gave a sad smile. This kid has been through so much, and even after attempting suicide he still smiles. This kid needs someone to guide him, someone he can look up to. He thought, "Hey kid, I got a proposition for you. Would you like to hear it?" Stain said. Midoriya looked up at Stain with a confused face, and the proposition Stain gave was something Midoriya never expected to hear from the infamous hero killer. Chapter 2, Aftermath and Pain. "Come with me and I'll teach you everything I know," proposed Stain to Midoriya. Midoriya was baffled at the question. The hero killer wanted him to become his apprentice essentially. Midoriya would have said no, but it seemed Stain was the only person in this world who believed he could be seen as more than a useless quirkless kid aside from his mother. Midoriya then remembered all the bullying and his conversation with All Might. "I'll do it," he responded confidently. Stain was overwhelmed with enthusiasm and joy, but before he could say anything else Midoriya spoke. "But I have some rules. 1. Inko Midoriya, my mother stays out of it completely. 2. I want to live with you. I can't go home. Not anymore. It's better if people think I'm dead. And 3. I won't kill. I know you kill heroes, but I'm not going to be a part of that," stated Midoriya. Stain was understanding of the conditions except the final one, but he knew deep down Midoriya longed to be a hero even if he was willing to turn to the other side. "Fine, I'll put my ideals on hold for you, and you have my word your mother will be left alone," said Stain. Stain was angry he had to put hero killing on hold, but he was anxious to teach Midoriya his ways and mold a once scared child into something more. Midoriya was relieved Stain was willing to put his crusade on hold for him. "Alright, let's get out of here," Midoriya said, but as soon as he said those words he passed out. He passed out due to the pain in his arm and the amount of adrenaline pumping through his body. Stain thought, amazing, we were talking for 30 minutes and just now he passed out? This kid really is something, Stain thought as he picked up Midoriya and took him to one of his hideouts. The next morning Inko woke up and decided to cook and bring Izuku's favorite meal, katsu, onto his bed. As she opened the door her legs became heavy as she dropped the plate. She ran to the window and searched all over her son's room, hoping there was sign that he left early in the morning to the convenience store or to the mall. Inko wanted something. Until she found her answer in the form of a note. Inko read the note and she could feel herself become heavier every word she read until finally she collapsed on the floor, crying and gripping onto the note. She kept asking why and began to doubt herself and if she failed, as a mother. Inko barely managed to get downstairs to the phone as she called for the police. As Inko was sitting in her house wrapped in the security blanket the police gave her, she was given the news that there was no body at the address given on the note, but Midoriya's shoes were found at the rooftop. "We think he may have gone to a higher rooftop, or in the best case scenario he jumped and landed on something that cushioned his fall, and he decided ultimately to run away from home instead of, you know." The detective said both scenarios were bad, but at least in one her son was alive. A little ray of hope lit inside her heart that her son was still alive. "For now we will make a missing persons report. Hopefully he is still out there," explained the detective. "Please find my baby," pleaded Inko as the detective gave a sad smile. "I'll find him, I promise," he said as he began to walk out the door. "Wait, what's your name?" asked Inko. "Forgive me, my name is Namasa," Tsukaki said. "Namasa, thank you so much. Please find my baby boy," begged Inko. Namasa smiled and said, "I promise he'll find him," as he finally walked out the door and walked into his vehicle. 2 days later Midoriya woke up in run-down room with 2 blocks of wood on both sides of his arm. "Where am I?" asked Midoriya out loud. "You're in one of my many hideouts, Midoriya. You passed out from the pain and adrenaline that was pumping throughout your body 3 days ago," stated Stain. Midoriya was astonished he was out that long as he tried to get up, but his arm was still in pain. 3 days. "Ow. I forgot I broke my arm," said Midoriya. Stain looked at Midoriya's arm and explained, "Turns out it's not broken, Midoriya, it's dislocated just very very badly," said Stain. "Well, can't you, I don't know, relocate it maybe?" exclaimed Midoriya as he held onto his arm. "I said I was going to train you and now is a good time to start." "Midoriya, you are going to relocate your own arm," stated Stain in a serious tone. Midoriya's face grew pale as he noticed he wasn't joking. "Are you serious? How am I going to do that? I can barely handle stubbing my toe and you want me to relocate my arm?" explained Midoriya nervously. "Since you're quirkless you must train your body to endure pain and train it to be stronger than the average human body," explained Stain as he began to put his hand on his shoulder. "Look at how I do it," Stain said as he dislocated his own shoulder with relative ease and not even flinching. Midoriya cringed at the sight of a shoulder being dislocated in front of him. "Now look, my shoulder is clearly dislocated. With enough training you will be able to relocate certain parts of your body while feeling little to no pain. Look closely how I relocate my arm," Stain explained as he grasped his shoulder and popped it back into place like it was nothing, no sign of hesitation or a hint of pain. Midoriya was shocked, amazed, and terrified. "I have to relocate my own arm," thought Midoriya as he gulped. "We won't begin training until you've done that," Stain said as he walked to the corner of the room and sat in a chair and began to sharpen his blades. Midoriya was nervous to say the least. Every time he grasped his arm, it hurt like hell. However, after seeing Stain do it and because Midoriya was so skilled at analysis, he knew exactly how to pop his arm back in place. Next came the hard part, actually doing it. Midoriya took a deep breath. "Okay, I can do this. I'm not going to be weak anymore," he yelled as he grasped his arm and in one swift motion popped his arm back into place. Midoriya yelped so loudly he scared himself, but his arm was finally back and was surprised. He thought the kid would take a little longer to do it, but he did it almost instantly after just showing him how to do it. Midoriya got up off the bed and gave a victory scream at the top of his lungs. Stain smiled as he saw his apprentice give his victory scream. "What are you made of, kid?" Stain said as he got up and was prepared to catch Midoriya as he was beginning to faint. "Stain, I did it, haha." Midoriya managed to choke up before passing out again. "You sure did." Stain smiled as he laid Midoriya down on the bed again. "If it wasn't for this world's ideals, you would have been a true hero, kid," Stain said as he sighed. "At Midoriya's old school?" "What do you mean he's gone? The bastard couldn't have gone anywhere," yelled Bukigou at his principal. "Well, Midoriya is missing and we thought you would know where he would go since you're his best friend. Maybe a secret hiding spot he used to go to, maybe?" explained the principal. "Don't associate me with that nerd. We were never best friends." "Are we done here?" clamored Bukigou as he was already 1 foot out the door. "Yes, thank you for your time, Bukigou. You can go back to class," said the principal as he returned to his paperwork. "Deku can go die for all I care. At least now he won't bother me and my road to being the #1 hero," he thought. "Besides, it's not like the idiot had the balls to kill himself. He probably just ran away from home." Bukigou said in his head, "The entrance exam to UA is in 11 months. I have to get ready for my bright future," he said as he smiled and walked back into class. Back at Stain's hideout, Midoriya wakes up again and gets up with his once dislocated arm. "Huh? It doesn't hurt anymore. It's like nothing ever happened," said Midoriya as Stain was fixing the bandages around his arm. "It's this ointment I made. Take a look. I use over-the-counter ointments and some herbs. Small cuts and sore bones heal faster. Here, have the ingredients. I already know how to make it at the top of my head," said Stain as he threw the ointment towards Izuku with the ingredients. "You know, you surprised me, kid. I didn't think you would pop your arm back in place like it was nothing," Stain said as he gave a little laugh. Midoriya couldn't help but smile. "This stuff is amazing," said Midoriya as he started mumbling to himself while looking at the ingredients, wondering how they can be improved. "What are you doing? It's creeping me out a bit," said Stain. Midoriya looked up, snapping out of his trance. "Oh, it's just a habit I have. When I find something that's interesting, I like to think of all its possible uses and improvements, much like my notebook," said Midoriya as he put the ingredient list into his notes for later use. "Get up, we're going out and we're going to start training right now," Stain said. Midoriya was a bit excited too. He was a bit inspired. He had just popped his own arm back into place. "Kid, you need a name. We can't just use your real name," Stain stated. Midoriya already knew what name he wanted. "Deku, that's the name he'll be using," Midoriya said. Stain was surprised. He wanted to use the name that has haunted him for his entire life. "I'm going to make this into a name people will remember," said Midoriya. Stain was proud to say the least. "You're going to use the name that haunted you your entire life. It's admirable," said Stain. "Alright, Deku, let's get started," said Stain. Chapter 3, Training with a Demon. It has been 3 months and all Stain has been making me do is strength training. "I want to learn something," thought Midoriya as he was doing the workout plan Stain gave him. It wasn't an easy workout either. It exhausted and left Midoriya dead every time, no matter how many times he did the workout. However, due to the ointment Stain made, it relieved his bones in 2 hours and he was able to start his training again, bypassing the limits of the body. Midoriya, however, has since then perfected the ointment and got the time down to 1 hour. Midoriya was sitting in the room that had all the exercise equipment applying some of his ointment. He had just finished his set when Stain came in. "Hey kid, you better not be slacking on the training," Stain said in a commanding voice. "I'm not, I just finished actually," responded Midoriya. He was about to ask Stain about his real training when Stain spoke. "Put this on, we're going out," Stain said as he threw a costume that looked exactly like the one he drew in his notebook. However, instead it was black and had gray stripes and his gloves were also gray. "I took the liberty of looking in your notebook. I had a feeling you had a costume in there. However, I changed the colors and some other things too. Mostly the colors. I can't have you wearing green. You would stick out like a sore thumb. As for the ears, I got rid of them. It makes you very easy to grab in a fight, so now it's just a hood," explained Stain as he handed him the gloves and a black metal face mask. Midoriya was excited. He finally had his very own costume. Even though Stain changed a couple things, he was happy regardless. "Sorry we didn't go out sooner, kid, but I couldn't get you out there without training your body first," Stain explained. Midoriya was changing in the other room. Midoriya looked at himself in the mirror. He hadn't noticed before, maybe due to the fact he was so into his training, but his body was completely transformed. Midoriya had a very clear six-pack along with strong toned muscles. Midoriya looked at himself one more time in the mirror, amazed that the body before him was his own. "Alright, how is it?" asked Midoriya as Stain looked up while putting knives in his holsters. "Glad I got the right size," replied Stain as he finished up getting ready. "Alright, let's get out of here," said Stain. Midoriya was anxious to finally learn some techniques from Stain. "Hey, where are we going?" asked Midoriya as he was walking next to Stain. "We are going to this rooftop," said Stain as he pointed towards the building. "We are going to start honing your movement, awareness, and fighting ability," explained Stain as they both reached the rooftop. "I won't be holding your hand, Deku. Whether you live or die now solely depends on you now," said Stain calmly as he looked ahead towards the other rooftops. Midoriya was surprised he called him Deku, but that was the name he had chosen to be called. "I know you like your notes too, so I added a voice recorder in your mask so you can listen to them later. There is a knob on the right side, just twist and push and it will record your voice," Stain said as he leapt towards the other building. Midoriya quickly turned the knob and pressed the button. He was ready to record Stain's movements and analyze them later. Midoriya looked down from the edge of the building to see the ground beneath them. He took a deep breath. "Here goes nothing," he said as leapt towards the other building, and to his surprise he made the jump. Not as smooth as Stain, but he made it. "I guess all that exercise is paying off," Deku said as he began to follow Stain, who was way ahead but just visible enough to be able to record his movements. "Alright, I can do this," thought Midoriya as he quickly hopped towards the next building. That entire month Stain focused on movement training, where he showed Midoriya how to use the terrain to his advantage as well as how to keep his balance. He also taught him how to maneuver with tricky terrain. Midoriya was catching on to the training quickly. Soon enough he was able to follow right behind Stain. After that month they began awareness and how to predict and dodge fast-moving objects. Midoriya, being extremely observant while also being a quick thinker, had no trouble with this part of the training, which amazed Stain since it took him almost 4 months to get to Deku's level. Midoriya was able to dodge Stain's knives being thrown at him at almost 95 miles per hour. However, Midoriya did get some really bad cuts. Stain never aimed for vitals, but he didn't hold back. Next came fighting. "Alright Deku, get dressed in your costume. These next few months will be the most important ones," said Stain as he waited at the door. "I've been waiting for this," said Midoriya as he walked towards the door. "I'm going to teach you my fighting style, but feel free to change it up any way you like. Also, I don't know how to hold back, so be prepared," said Stain. "I guessed as much," Midoriya said jokingly as he stared at an ugly scar in right hand and then put on his glove. "Jesus, barely dodged that one," thought Midoriya as he barely dodged Stain's blade. "As a monster as usual, and I can never predict what he will be doing next," Midoriya thought as his blade collided with Stain's. Midoriya had a fairly large blade, but not long enough to be considered a sword. However, unlike Stain's crooked and unkept blade, his was refined and well kept and made of tungsten, a much stronger metal. Stain quickly threw a knife in Midoriya's direction, where he instantly dodged, but it put him exactly where Stain wanted him as he stabbed him in the leg. Midoriya grunted at the blade piercing his skin. In that moment Midoriya instincts finally emerged. His face went emotionless and he snatched one of Stain's throwable knives and stabbed him multiple times in the arm, holding the sword. "Son of a," shouted Stain as he loosened his grip on the sword. Midoriya was conscious of what was happening but not in control of his body. He quickly snapped out of his trance and Stain followed up with a sucker punch to Midoriya's face, knocking him out and ended the fight. 2 hours later Midoriya woke up in one of Stain's many hideouts, still a little woozy from the punch. "Jesus, this guy really is insane," Midoriya thought as he looked at his left leg that was now stitched up. "You think too much when you fight," Stain said, breaking the silence as he was sitting in an armchair stitching up his right arm in the corner of the room. "Explain," demanded Midoriya as he kept staring at his leg. "Don't get me wrong, there is nothing wrong with thinking ahead, but when fighting someone who is full of pure instinct and raw fighting ability or an extremely fast quirk, you have to use your own instincts to fight back. However, most of these people only rely on just that instinct alone and or their quirk and think that alone will win them the fight. If you can think ahead while also using your instincts, you will win every single fight, I guarantee you." explained Stain. Midoriya sat up. Is that what I experienced when we were fighting? Asked Midoriya as Stain looked up. Yes, that's right, however you lost complete control of your own body, explained Stain as he finished up stitching his last cut. Don't worry, in time you will learn how to control it and use it while still being able to control your own body, Stain said as he applied some of the improved ointment Midoriya had made. Wait. Did you bring my video cameras, the ones I set up when we were fighting? Clamored Midoriya. He had set up cameras beforehand so he could learn and observe his fights with Stain. Yeah, I got them. He pointed towards a handful of CDs. Right next to them were a small cabinet full of all the fights he's had with Stain, each with a date and number. It's hard to believe they have been fighting for 3 months straight and just now he's landed a solid blow on Stain. Unlike Midoriya, who was now full of cuts all over his body. I'm going to get stronger and I'll beat you, stated Midoriya as he looked at Stain. Well then we'll just have to wait and see about that, Deku, responded Stain. It's been 8 months since Midoriya Izuku has gone missing and there still hasn't been any clues as to where his body may be or where he could have gone. It's like this kid jumped and vanished into thin air. Namasa pondered while going through Midoriya's case file. Namasa, we need you in the conference room, said Kenji Tsuragami as he walked out the door. Kenji Tsuragami was the chief of police. He was also part man, part dog. Yes sir, said Namasa as he put his UCAS file in his personal folder. Okay everyone, I have good news and bad news, said the chief. He walked towards the front of the room, standing next to a board full of threads, photos and a map of the city and many other provinces. The good news is Namasa Tsukaki will be joining this investigation, stated Kenji as he signaled Namasa to the front. Thank you for having me, he said as he bowed in respect to the other detectives and police officers. Now then, with that out of the way, let's get down to the bad news. Stain, the hero killer, has been absent for almost 9 months now. As we recall, he was last seen around this part of town, said Kenji as he pointed towards a big red circle on the map and multiple photos on the board showing the streets. As far as we know, he just vanished ever since then and there hasn't been any missing pros or attacks, explained Kenji as he looked around the room. How is this bad news, sir? A policeman asked. It's bad news because we have no clue as to what he's planning or doing at this moment in time, and the less we know the more dangerous this situation becomes, Kenji explained to the policeman as he began to jot down notes. And the families of the heroes he's killed deserve justice for what he's done, Kenji said as he began to review all the information they had on the hero killer ever since his appearance. That will be all. Remember to stay alert, Kenji concluded as he handed a file to Namasa. This is a copy of all the information we have on this case. Thank you for helping us, Namasa, said Kenji as he shook his hand. It's my pleasure, Chief, responded Namasa. The entrance exam is in a couple of months, said Bukagu as he was walking home to school. As he was walking home, he noticed a familiar woman. Inko Midoriya was handing out flyers of her missing son to passerbys. That useless shit is still missing, huh? Bukagu said annoyingly in his head. Until now, he told himself, Midoriya had just switched schools, but that is what he told himself to avoid feeling guilty. Nerd probably ran away and tried to become a vigilante or something. Bukagu said he couldn't help but laugh at the thought Midoriya helping anyone. Old Hagim home, shouted Bukagu as he walked upstairs to his room. Okay, responded his mother. Bukagu pulled out his weights and began to work out. He wanted to get ready for the entrance exam. Stupid Deku. Do you think this will faze me? You did not become anything and I'm going to be the most famous and rich hero who ever lived. You were always a pebble, nothing more. I will become the best there is and you can just watch and see how weak you really are. Bukagu grunted as he was doing his reps. 2 months later, Midoriya dodged Stain's katana as he jumped on Stain's shoulders and pushed himself off, doing a backflip to create some space. Midoriya was on an entirely different level than when he first started fighting Stain. Stain dashed towards him at incredible speed and Midoriya did the same, but he went over Stain's head and in one swift motion cut his back. No words were exchanged as he quickly ignored the cut and pulled out a throwing knife and threw it towards Midoriya's face. In response, Midoriya, instead of dodging, grabbed the blade in midair and threw it back. Much to Stain's surprise, he flinched at the action and dodged just in time. Midoriya could now control his killer instinct and was able to think clearly. Midoriya saw Stain was disoriented at his most recent move, so he went in for the decisive blow as he dashed towards him with his blade in hand, just stopping before his neck. "Hey, I yield," said Stain, out of breath as he fell on his back looking towards the ceiling. He had never gone up against anyone as fast as him in a long time. "I win," Midoriya said as he fell on his bottom. He couldn't help but feel powerless. "However, you could have won, you know. With your quirk blood curdle," Midoriya said in a defeated tone. "Stain could paralyze his enemies by licking their blood. If it wasn't for training me, I would lose every single time," explained Midoriya as he looked at all the old cuts all over his arms and body. "You're right, kid, I could have won every single time, but then it wouldn't be training now, would it?" said Stain, confirming Midoriya's statement. "I knew it," Midoriya said, defeated, but before he could say anything else. "But this time, even with my quirk, I would have lost," stated Stain as he got up and extended his hand towards Midoriya. "I didn't even land a single cut on you," explained Stain as Midoriya grabbed his hand and pulled himself up. "What?" exclaimed Midoriya as he got up. "Look at my blades," Stain said as he showed him all the blades he used during the fight. "They're clean," he said as he handed Midoriya all the blades. "You won, kid. Congrats," said Stain in a proud voice to his apprentice. "Thank you, Stain, for everything," said Midoriya as he closed his hand and remembered a time he couldn't even touch Stain. "The world is soon going to know your name, Deku," Stain said as he made an evil smile. "I'm prepared to show the world who I am," responded Midoriya as he looked up. Chapter 4. Midoriya and Stain were hopping over buildings, searching for their prey. "So what's the plan, Stain?" Midoriya said as he crouched and looked overhead at the city. "We're looking for this man. His hero name is Captain Celebrity," said Stain as he handed Midoriya a photo of the man. "Captain Celebrity? I've looked into him. He's pretty strong," explained Midoriya as he looked over towards Stain. "Yeah, this guy got into some heat over in America for sexual abuse, so he came here to lay low and get with more women here," said Stain in a disgusted tone. Midoriya and Stain had taken down many heroes, but not someone of this caliber. "He's supposed to be around this area as far as I know. Also, he loves being swarmed by his personal paparazzi, so we will have to make sure we seclude him. His quirk is flight, but on top of that he has super strength. He can lift an entire cruise ship," said Midoriya as he flipped through his notebook looking at the notes he had on the hero. "This guy will instantly leave the scene if he feels his life is in danger, so keep that in mind, Stain. We have to do this fast," explained Midoriya. Midoriya spotted Captain Celebrity patrolling the empty street looking for women. "Alright, let's do this, kid," said Stain, enthusiastically as they both dropped down to an alley. "Help me, this guy is going to kill me," shouted Midoriya as Stain was walking towards him, giving off a devilish smile. Midoriya had cut his hair short, wore blue contact lenses and wore a medical mask to hide his identity. "Help!" Midoriya shouted one last time. Captain Celebrity flew to the alleyway where Midoriya was. "I am here, boy. After I defeat this villain, I'll sign your shirt," said Captain Celebrity in a triumphant voice. The hero flew towards Stain, slowly flying past and in front of Midoriya. "Now then, come quickly, paparazzi, you're going to want to see this," he said as he put his phone away. "Shit, he called them that quickly? Alright, we have to do this quick," thought Midoriya along with Stain, who understood what Izuku was thinking. As they both nodded, they began the assault on Captain Celebrity. Stain dashed towards the hero while throwing the blade simultaneously. Captain Celebrity barely dodged and was surprised at the sheer speed Stain had over him. But Captain Celebrity flew towards Stain, tackling him and ramming him into the wall. "Tsk, you're going to have to do better than that if you want to stand up to me, Captain," Celebrity said in a confident voice. Midoriya in those moments got in position for his part of the plan. Stain noticed Midoriya's position and began to execute the plan they made beforehand. He moved towards Captain Celebrity and tried to cut him. As soon he saw this, Captain Celebrity flew up, dodging Stain. "Please don't tell me that's all you go," but before Captain Celebrity could finish his sentence, a sharp pain entered his right shoulder blade as he realized that Midoriya was on his back holding the dagger that stabbed him. "The kid?" Captain Celebrity thought as Midoriya pushed himself off the hero's back and onto an AC unit where he threw the blade at Stain. It's over, said Stain with a wicked smile. This is bad, I better leave, thought Captain Celebrity, but before he could fly away, Stain licked the blade Midoriya gave him and Captain Celebrity fell like a rock to the ground. Now then, Captain Celebrity, don't be mad, you brought this on to yourself. You and these fake heroes who plague this world, Stain said as he walked towards the incapacitated hero. Midoriya let Stain go on with his rant. He never interrupted him when he was in this state. It just made him even more unstable. Now, this is where it ends. Oh, Captain, Stain said as he lifted his blade prepared to kill the hero before Midoriya stopped him by pulling the hero away. What are you doing? Stain asked angrily. Midoriya quickly put up his blade. Stain, my condition was no killing, leave him to a bloody pulp if you want, but don't finish him, said Midoriya as he looked at Stain, who was filled with so much rage and insanity. You knew this was coming, Stain, just accept it, said Midoriya, still holding on to Captain Celebrity, who was on the floor confused at the scene before him. Fine, Stain said, giving up as he walked towards Captain Celebrity. Looks like you're getting a beating instead of death today, hero. Consider this mercy, said Stain as he began to kick and beat Captain Celebrity, who was on the floor, barely able to catch his breath. Midoriya was always beaten like that by Deku, so he didn't join in, but he did watch mostly to make sure Stain didn't kill him. The guy did deserve it for all of those women he assaulted in America. As Stain finished up his beating, he began to speak. Remember this day, hero, the day Deku and Stain, the hero killer, beat you into this miserable state, he said as Midoriya walked up to the beaten and broken man. Reflect on your actions, hero, said Midoriya as he dialed the police and masked his voice, telling them location of Captain Celebrity and his current state. Midoriya and Stain quickly led from wall to the top of the building and left. Little did they know a member of Captain Celebrity's paparazzi crew recorded the fight and the beating he received. You did good, kid, but I'm not sure how long I can put my ideals on hold for you, said Stain as he paced impatiently around the room. Midoriya was aware Stain was mentally unstable when it came to his crusade. It was like an addiction. Izuku knew he couldn't hold Stain back for long. It was only a matter of time until he snapped and went on a rampage. Midoriya was at a crossroads. He didn't want to leave Stain, but he knew if he stuck with him he would eventually go against his final rule. Stain, Midoriya was about to speak when Stain interrupted him. Kid, we have to part ways, said Stain in a stern voice. Midoriya was surprised at what Stain just said. I can't put my ideals on hold just for you, and sooner or later I'm going to snap, Stain explained as he finally sat down in his armchair. Stain, you don't have to, said Midoriya before he was interrupted again by his mentor. You may be a villain, but you aren't an evil, kid. I knew since day one if it wasn't for quirks and the bullying you endured, I know you would have made an outstanding hero, explained Stain as he got up and walked towards his apprentice. Here, these guys contacted me to join their group. They said they were interested in both of us, but they were more into you due to your impressive observation and note-taking, said Stain as he handed Midoriya a business card with one address on it. Get your shit and get out of here, Midoriya said Stain as he opened the front door. Midoriya couldn't say anything. Stain was right. He himself knew he would eventually lose it if Midoriya kept stopping him from heroes, every time. I understand, said Midoriya sadly as he grabbed his things and began to walk out the door. Deku, Stain called out as he threw a knife toward Midoriya, to which he catched. With these attached to it was a red calling card that had a phone number. Stay sharp, kid, Stain said as he closed the door to his hideout. Midoriya was all alone again. He couldn't help but feel sad. Stain had been a teacher, mentor, and most of all the father figure he always needed. Midoriya looked down. Stain gave him, guess I'll see what these guys want with me, said Midoriya as he headed towards the address. Meanwhile, at the Katsuki household, the entrance exam is in 1 week and I'm going to ace it, said Deku as he looked at the U.A website stating the time, date, and location the exam was going to take place. Deku, the food is ready, we have guests, yelled Deku's mother from downstairs. Alright mom, I'll be right down, yelled Deku as he exited his room and went downstairs to eat dinner. Much to his surprise, Midoriya was downstairs helping his mom finish up. How much you've grown, Kaken, said Inko in a kind tone. Deku flinched at the name Kaken, the only one who called him That was Midoriya. "Good afternoon," said Bakugo as he sat down at the table. "I'm sure you know what happened to Midoriya, so please have respect or don't say anything at all," whispered Bakugo's mother into his ear. "Even when the dumb nerd is missing he's giving me fucking hard time," thought Bakugo angrily as he ate his food quickly. He didn't want to hear anything related to Deku. Bakugo quickly finished his food and went back up to his room without saying a word. "So Inko, how's the search coming along?" asked Mitsuki as she cleaned her plate and her son's. "It's not going well, they can't seem to find him anywhere," responded Inko as she looked at her food. "I'm sure he's out there, sweetie, he has to be," said Mitsuki in a loving voice as she grasped Inko's hand. "I hope he's eating enough," said Inko as she poked at her food some more. "This is the place," said Midoriya as he looked at the building and the others around it. "Well, it's deserted, so that's a good sign, I hope," he thought as a black mist engulfed him out of nowhere. As soon as Midoriya was teleported, he quickly pulled out his blade and prepared himself. "Calm yourself, we are not going to hurt you," said the well-dressed black mist as he began to clean a shot glass while next to him was a blue-haired teen with hands all over his body. Midoriya wasn't convinced and still kept his guard up. "You guys the League of Villains?" asked Midoriya as he threw the calling card in their direction. "Yes we are, boy," said a deep chilling voice. Much to Midoriya's surprise, it came from a monitor mounted on a wall. "Sensei," said Shigaraki as looked towards the monitor. "Now then, let's get down to business, Deku." "That is what you go by, correct?" said the man on the monitor. "Yes, it's Deku," responded Midoriya as he lowered his weapon, realizing if they wanted him dead they would have done something by now. "Deku, I'm going to be frank, we need your analyzing skills. It's as simple as that, and possibly aid us in more ambitious projects in the future," said the man, calmly. "What's the catch?" asked Midoriya as he knew a group like this wasn't without a catch usually. "There is no catch. You will work for us only. We only want your analysis on heroes and that brilliant mind of yours," explained the man. "If that's all, I see no reason not to join," Midoriya said. However, he knew if he refused he was going to die. This man had it aura about him. "Excellent," said the man, but before he could say another word Midoriya spoke. "I have two conditions, however," Midoriya said as he looked at the man on the screen. 1. I will not kill. 2. I can come and go as I please. Also, you don't have to worry about me saying anything. I'd rather stay hidden," explained Midoriya as he gripped his blade, prepared for the worst. "Interesting. Okay Deku, we only need you for analysis, for the time being anyway, so I have no problem with these conditions," said the man in a low, intimidating voice. "All right then. One more thing, what's your name?" "I would like to know my employer's name," asked Midoriya as he lowered his blade yet again. "My name is All For One and the Black Mist is Kurogiri and this young man is Shigaraki," responded All For One. Midoriya's eyes grew. He knew exactly who this man was and what he was capable of. "All For One, you were quite famous when quirks began to emerge," said Midoriya as he looked towards the monitor. "You know your history. Now tell me, Deku, what quirk do you possess?" asked All For One as he looked at Deku. "I'm actually quirkless," responded Midoriya in a proud voice. Midoriya had accepted his status and now saw it as a strength rather than a weakness. "Interesting, it's just what this league needs, real talent. Nothing given to them by birth," said All For One, displaying his interest in Midoriya. "I will provide you an apartment on this street by tonight." "Welcome Deku to the League of Villains," exclaimed All For One. "Thank you for having me," responded Midoriya as he bowed in respect to everyone in the room. The next morning 7 a.m. "I don't like him at all," said Shigaraki in an annoyed voice. He really didn't like Midoriya, most likely due to his no-killing rule and him getting praised by Sensei. Kurogiri didn't dislike Midoriya, in fact he respected him for how mature he seemed. "Good morning Kurogiri." "Good morning Shigaraki," said Midoriya as he sat at the bar. "Good morning Deku, what will it be today?" asked Kurogiri as he began to arrange plates and cups. "A bowl of cereal if you can," Kurogiri responded. "Midoriya of course," responded Kurogiri as he began to serve him his cereal. Midoriya turned to look at Shigaraki, who was staring at him. "Deku, if you don't deliver or you spill anything I'll kill you myself," said Shigaraki as he stared as Midoriya. "Don't worry about me, Shigaraki," responded Midoriya as he began to eat his cereal and watch TV. Today was the U.A entrance exam and it was all over the news. Midoriya returned to his apartment that was right next to the League's hideout. Midoriya let out a sigh. He wanted to be a hero so badly, but it was far too late. A smile grew across Midoriya's face. "I don't start any work until tomorrow. Let me show the world that someone without a quirk can pass the entrance exam," said Midoriya as he put on a pair of pants and a shirt. Also, to hide his identity, Midoriya put on his hazel blue contacts and a medical face mask. As for his hair, he quickly went to the convenience store and bought white spray-on hair dye. "Okay, if I take the rooftops I'll make it just barely," said Midoriya as he walked out his apartment and traversed his way to the rooftop, folder in hand. "Thanks for the fake paperwork, Stain," said Midoriya as he let out a smile. Stain made sure to give Midoriya some cover in case anyone ever tried to question him for whatever reason. Midoriya's fake name was Akeguro Hiro. He had attended a middle school in Hazu to which he also has paperwork too. Stain had good connections, so if they tried to find Akeguro Hiro in the system it wouldn't be a problem. "At the U.A entrance." "Alright, I made it," said Midoriya as he put on his medical mask and made his way to registration. Midoriya was walking to the entrance as he tripped on a broken piece of pavement, to which he regained his balance instantly and felt a tap on his back and began to float. Midoriya was completely calm and turned to see who touched him. He was aware of her presence, but he wanted to maintain his cover. "Ah, thank you," said Midoriya calmly as she pressed the tips of her fingers together, releasing Midoriya. "It's my quirk, sorry for stopping you, but it's a bad omen if you trip and fall. It sure is nerve-wracking, huh?" "Well, good luck to us both," said the round-faced girl as she walked away. "Interesting quirk," said Midoriya as he noted her quirk mentally as she walked away. Midoriya entered to the amphitheater. After registration they tried to get Midoriya to take off his mask for the test, but Midoriya's time with Stain and baiting in heroes taught him how to lie and put on, and they let him through to the theater. "Welcome to today's live performance, everybody say hey," said Present Mick, only to receive no response. He was a pro hero who also held a talk show. Midoriya was a couple minutes late as he walked in and found the row and seat he was assigned. As Midoriya approached his seat he recognized a familiar face. It was Deku, his bully and ex-best friend. "I knew you'd be here, didn't think we would be this close. Sorry, I can't help but hate you, Kaken. Everything you did to me," scowled Midoriya. In his head he hated Deku for everything he had done to him, and not being able to do anything at that moment made Izuku angrier. Midoriya sat down and began to listen to the seminar when he felt Bakuga's eyes staring at him. "Now here are the rules. Each foe villain has a set number of points attached to it, and you will destroy these villains. The higher level the villain, the more points you get," explained Present Mick. Papers with detailed instructions began to be passed around. As Midoriya received his paper he began to mumble all possible outcomes, strategies, and all the foe villains' weaknesses and strengths. Deku turned to look at his neighbor, mumbling to himself, and couldn't help but be reminded of Midoriya as his blood boiled. Why did they add such a big villain with no points? And probably for someone to be presented with the opportunity to show heroic qualities. Hidden points maybe, Midoriya mumbled as a tall boy with glasses stood up and asked a question over the exam. "And you with the white hair, you've been mumbling this whole time, it's distracting. If this is some sort of game to you, please leave immediately." Some students around Midoriya began to snicker and giggle before Midoriya responded. "Mind your business," said Midoriya in an intimidating tone as he stared at the boy with glasses with cold eyes. The theater went silent and the boy with glasses saw the look in his eyes and sat back down. Present Mick went on to explain the rest of the test, and everyone was assigned their test sites. Midoriya was assigned test site 2. He was with Deku, the girl from earlier, and the boy with glasses who called him out earlier in the theater. "Excuse me, may I have a weapon?" asked Midoriya as he spoke to one of the attendants at the test site. "Excuse me, a weapon? Your quirk is enough, isn't it?" said the attendant in a confused voice. "I don't have a quirk, so I'm going to need a weapon unless you want me to fight the villains with my bare hands." said Midoriya in a deadpan voice as he looked at the attendant. The attendant was shocked. A Quirkless Boy was taking the entrance exam. There was no rule against it, but no one Quirkless has ever taken the test. "Oh, assure him, will this do?" asked the attendant, still confused, as he handed Midoriya a retractable metal staff. "This is good enough," said Midoriya as he received the staff and walked towards the gates to the test site, the attendant staring at the boy as he walked away. Midoriya was at the front waiting for the gates to open. He wasn't stupid. USJ was a prestigious school. They wanted heroes who could act instantly, so the moment the gates opened he was ready. Midoriya looked around and saw Deku by himself making little explosions in his hand. Meanwhile, the boy in glasses was looking around and the round-faced girl was taking deep breaths. The gates began to open slightly and slowly, but in that instant Midoriya turned on his switch and instantly ran through the gate. Midoriya spotted two levels 1s and quickly pulled out his staff and with one strike broke the bot in one hit, shattering its metal armor like it was paper. He quickly followed up to the next bot, easily dodging its swing and shattering his head in one hit. Midoriya quickly moved to the building and hopped from wall to the roof. As soon as Midoriya made it to the roof, he quickly moved throughout the site, destroying any bots he encountered. "Begin. What are you guys waiting for? The test already started and one student already has 20 points," shouted President Mick in the intercom. Everyone quickly dashed to the entrance, which was now wide open. "20 points?" said everyone, as they ran. Deku was angry. Someone was getting ahead of him, and by so much already. He quickly began to rack up his points along with the boy with glasses and his engine legs kicking the bots into rubble, and the round-faced girl who was making robots float and drop, breaking them on impact to the ground. 15 minutes later in the observation room. "Who is this kid?" said Eraserhead, who was impressed at Midoriya along with many other teachers. All Might, who was going to be teaching at USJ, was also impressed. "He'll pull up his file now," said Nezu. "Okay, his name is Akeguro Hiro. He graduated top of his class in terms of grades. And he's Quirkless," said Nezu as he quickly looked at the monitor which showed Midoriya on screen. The entire monitoring room went silent to news of a Quirkless boy doing so well on the entrance exam. All Might was reminded of the day he told Midoriya to give up on being a hero. "Was I wrong to say such a thing to that boy?" thought All Might. They began to watch Midoriya fight a level 3 foe villain. Midoriya quickly maneuvered around the robot and twisted its head off with his bare hands. "He's been trained well," stated Eraserhead as he watched the boy rip the robot's head off and crush it underfoot. "This is too easy," said Midoriya as he destroyed another robot. He had a total of 67 points at the moment. "I think that's enough. I should leave some for these guys," said Midoriya as he retracted his staff and parkoured his way to the top of a building. "Let's see how the rest of these people are doing," he thought as he scanned the area looking at the other students fight the remaining robots, but a loud rumble made him lose his train of thought. "The obstacle, huh?" said Midoriya calmly as he sat at the edge of the building and was astonished a school had the budget to make such a big robot. Midoriya got up and made his way closer to the robot to get a better look when he saw a familiar face. "It's that girl with the zero-gravity quirk," thought Midoriya as he saw her run away from the huge robot. As the girl was running, she tripped and rubble from the building landed on her leg, leaving her directly on the robot's path. Knowing them, they will stop the bot before it crushes her. But there is always the chance she could die to the debris, thought Midoriya. He looked in the girl's direction and ran in her direction to help her. Midoriya easily lifted the rocks and rubble and carried her out of the robot's path. "Thank you," said the girl as she blushed. "Don't mention it," said Midoriya as he set her down. "My name is Uraraka Okoko, by the way," said Uraraka as she caught her breath. "Akeguro Hiro, nice to meet you," said Midoriya as he looked towards the clock. The test had 1 minute left. It was practically over. "Well, it was nice meeting you, Uraraka. I hope you pass," said Midoriya as he began jogging towards the exit. Uraraka couldn't say a word. She was still in shock over everything that had happened. In the monitor room, the teachers were all impressed by Midoriya and his skills. "Quirks really aren't everything, huh?" said Nezu as he marked Akeguro Hiro in the 1A class. "Has broken all the school records. I want to speak with him, personally." said Nezu as he got up from his chair. Several other teachers along with All Might spoke up and also wanted to meet this quirkless boy. Was I wrong to deny that boy his dreams? Asked All Might to himself as followed Nezu to the amphitheater. Students, first off, great job everyone, you all did great. However, as you all know, many of you won't be accepted, said Nezu in a sad tone. He knew that all of these kids wanted to be heroes. But don't worry if you don't get accepted to U.A, that doesn't mean you can't become a hero. Anyone can become hero, even someone quirkless, said Nezu as he brought up the scoreboard. Many laughed at the idea of someone quirkless becoming a hero. Nezu brought up the scoreboard. It showed the top 5, which consisted of first Takeguro Hero, 2 ND Katsuki Bakugu, 3 RD, Ijiru Kirishima, 4 TH Tenya Lita, and in 5th Okakoyura Araka. She got lucky, she got a lot of rescue points from helping the other students. Will these students please come up to the stage, said Nezu as he scanned the room. The top 5 made their way to the front of the theater. Bakugu, however, was filled with so much anger that he didn't get first place. He wanted to punch the kid in first place. As the top 5 reached the front, Nezu spoke. You 5 did amazingly on the test, each in your own way. Some through combat and others in rescue, showing the true marks of a hero. However, one of you went above and beyond our expectations. Akeguro, will you please step forward? Said Nezu as he looked towards Midoriya and signaled him to step forward. Midoriya took a step forward, a bit interested what the principal was going to say. This boy broke all school records, showing impressive skills and displayed qualities of a true hero. And above all, being quirkless, said Nezu as he showed Midoriya's overall score of 127. The entire theater along with the top 5 were astonished. A quirkless person got the highest score ever. Who's quirkless and he got that high of a score? That's impossible, he probably cheated or something. That's not right, said the students, staring at the score and at Midoriya. Has quirkless? And I lost? This fucker cheated or something. There is no way a quirkless nobody did better than me, thought Bakugu angrily as he stared at the Midoriya aka Akeguro with contempt. We monitored Akeguro and can confirm there was no cheating involved, assured Nezu as he showed footage of Midoriya disposing of the robots. Anyone can become a hero and Akeguro is a prime example. Take a moment and reflect. Become the heroes of tomorrow by learning today, said Nezu as he began to walk off the stage. Alright, that will be all. Everyone make sure to check your mailboxes for your letter, said President Mick as he finished up with the presentation. Akeguro, me and some other teachers would like to speak with you after the presentation. Is that okay? Asked Nezu as he pulled Midoriya to the side. Sure, that's fine, responded Midoriya as he went back to his seat. After the presentation, Midoriya followed Nezu to a conference room along with a couple pro heroes including All Might. Akeguro, I would like to personally give you your letter of acceptance into UA, said Nezu as he handed Midoriya a letter with big UA letters on the front. You surprised us all today, not just because you were quirkless but also because you showed how skilled you are and saved a fellow student from the faux villain knowing there was no merit in doing so, explained Nezu as he looked in Midoriya's direction. Midoriya had no interest in attending U.A anymore. He was down a different path now. All the teachers began to question Midoriya in terms of who taught him to fight and move. Midoriya had an answer to all their questions. He knew he couldn't mention Stain taught him, so he said his father taught him everything he knows. Akeguro, I have a question, my boy, asked All Might as he stepped forward. A while ago a boy asked me if he could become a hero, and at that time I denied his aspirations, telling him it wasn't possible without a quirk. However, after watching you today I realized a quirk doesn't make the hero. My question is, was it the right thing to do? Said All Might as he looked in Midoriya's direction. If you don't mind, I'd like to recreate the scene with me as the boy so I can give you an accurate answer, said Midoriya as he showed a calm face. Sure, thank you my boy, said All Might as he lifted his shoulders and took a deep breath. Okay, we were at a rooftop after he grabbed me after jumping to bring a villain to the police, and asked me the question, said All Might as he explained the events that had transpired beforehand. I see, I'll try my best, said Midoriya, but he knew every emotion he felt that day, so recreating it won't be hard. All Might, I Admired you for a long time and I wanted to ask you if a quirkless person can be a hero. I know there isn't a quirkless hero out there, but I want to help people. I want to be like you," said Midoriya in the timid voice he used to have. Of course he masked his voice to be deeper. All Might was taken back by how almost it sounded like young Midoriya. All Might almost said the opposite of what he originally said to him that day, mostly due to the display the Quirkless Boy showed today. "I don't think it's possible for a person to become a hero without a quirk, but if you would like to help people then consider joining the police force. They don't get the praise like heroes do, but it's a fine profession," said All Might. A hint of guilt could be heard from his voice. All Might began to doubt. After hearing himself he began to realize something. "I see," said Midoriya as he clenched his fist. "After that I left the roof, leaving the young boy up there," said All Might as he tried to regain his composure. All Might was afraid for some reason. He was afraid of the answer he was about to receive. "That was cold, All Might. If I was him, I'd like to jump off a building because my idol, my last string of hope, told me to give up on my dreams. But you know what I think? He just moved on and began looking for people that might accept him and give him hope," said Midoriya, holding back his frustration. All Might's smile faltered and his heart sank at the thought of suicide. I see, choked up All Might. Midoriya was so frustrated he couldn't tell All Might exactly what he wanted to say, so he coded his words. "All Might, you shattered his dreams from what I can tell. It sounded like he looked up to you and you were his last string of hope. All he needed was a few words of encouragement and he would be standing here before you. It seemed like he wanted to be a hero more than anybody. I'm sure he would have tried his hardest to be able to stand in the arena even without a quirk. But he didn't even get the chance to try," Midoriya said to All Might. All Might grew cold as Midoriya gave his answer. He was right on the dot. All Might did shatter a boy's dream and he had no right whatsoever to do so. "Trust me, being quirkless isn't easy. Being quirkless nowadays means you get bullied, belittled, and treated as something lower than human. If that boy wanted to be a hero after all that, I think he deserved at least a chance to achieve his dream, don't you think?" said Midoriya as he grasped the note. All Might and the rest of the room went silent at what Midoriya said. They didn't know quirkless individuals went through this much hardship. "He's probably moved on by now. Hopefully. Don't beat yourself up," All Might said Midoriya as he put the note on the desk at the front of the room. "Thanks but no thanks. My aspirations for becoming a hero died long ago. I only came to this test to prove the world wrong about quirkless people and to set a record at this school no one will ever be able to break. And when they ask who holds it, the answer they will receive is it was a quirkless boy who had no intention of becoming a hero," said Midoriya as he walked towards the door, walking and closing it behind him. The room was silent. The boy didn't even want to be a hero. "Well then, I suppose there is nothing we can do about it. He has every right to deny us. I am sad however to see such talent walk away," said Nezu as he saw Midoriya walk towards the exit. "Hey you!" Bukage shouted at Akagero, aka Midoriya, as he was walking out of UA. "Don't think you're better than me just because you passed entrance exam with a high score, loser," shouted Bukage. "Huh? Okay, whatever you say," Midoriya said as he ignored Bukage and began walking to the League of Villains hideout. Midoriya arrived at his apartment and threw himself on the bed. "It's far too late for that now. I've chosen my path," said Midoriya as he pulled out a notebook. Midoriya began documenting the quirks he saw at the entrance exam. Midoriya was writing things down when a familiar voice came on the monitor in his room. "I saw your amazing display at the U.A entrance exam," Deku said. All for One. Midoriya was surprised. All for One was watching. "How did you watch the exam? How did you know I'd be there?" asked Midoriya as he looked up from his notebook. "I simply hacked a monitor and I keep tabs on everyone, even Shigaraki," explained All for One as he sat back in his chair. "I must say you truly showed some skill out there, Deku. Quirks aren't everything in this world and you showed them today," said All for One in a wicked tone. "Yeah, it was pretty easy. To tell you the truth, I always wanted to be hero but everyone just bullied and mocked me and my dream and I gave in," said Midoriya as he went back to writing in his journal. So, he wanted to be a hero? That's interesting. I wonder what changed. I'll find out in time, but for now he'll use his skills for the league. Thought All For One as he shifted into his chair. Well then, get some rest, Deku. Tomorrow you begin your work. Prepare yourself, he said as the monitor went blank. Midoriya documented the rest of the quirks he remembered and put the notebook away. Guess I should go to bed, Midoriya said as he went to sleep. Chapter 5. 2 weeks later, after the entrance exam, it's a fierce day of class. Students who did well on the practical exam began to pour into Class 1A. The student list was as followed: Katsuki Bakugo, Explosion Shito Todoroki, Fire and Ice Okako Uraraka, Zero Gravity Momo Yarazu, Creation Fumikage Tokoyami, Dark Shadow Tsuasui, Frog Can Do Anything a Frog Can Kyokajiro, Earphone Jakujiro Kirishima, Hardening Mina Ashido, Acid Tenya Ida, Engine Denki Kaminari, Electrification Yuga Aoyama, Naval Laser Mash Irao Ojiro, Tail Minoru Mineta, Pop-Off Mezzo Shoji, Dupli Arms Rikito Sato, Sugar Rush Koji Koda, and a Voice Taru Hakagior, Invisibility Handisero. Tape 19 students in total. Only one particular Quirkless Boy was missing. "Good morning," said Aizawa, aka Eraserhead, laying on the floor in a cocoon-like state. To which the class responded with surprised yelps. "In your homeroom, teacher Shido Aizawa. Please find your assigned seats," said Aizawa in a dead voice. All the students began to sit, all except one sitting behind Bakugo. "All right, now that you all found your seats, let's begin class," said Aizawa, but before he could say anything else he was interrupted. "Hey sensei, are you sure everyone is here?" said Mina Ashido, a pink-skinned girl with horns, as she looked towards the empty seat behind Bakugo. "Yes, that's everyone. The boy who broke school records and was number 1 in the practical exam rejected his acceptance letter to UA. He simply came to prove a point," said Aizawa as he got out a clipboard. Some students were amazed. "Someone rejected UA who's not here," thought Uraraka sadly as she fidgeted in her seat. "Fuck, and I wanted to pound it, quirkless shit," thought Bakugo angrily as he snapped his pencil in half. "Yes, well, nothing we can do about it. Now get changed into your hero clothes, we're going out to the yard," said Aizawa. Back at the league, Midoriya was done improving his suit. He made major adjustments such as changing the material, upgrading his face mask, and giving himself a couple new gadgets. Midoriya wasn't out fighting, instead he was stalking and observing multiple heroes and jotting down notes on their quirks. "Excellent work, Deku, my boy, your observation skills really are that of a genius," said All For One as the monitor switched on. "Thank you, sensei," said Midoriya as he nodded his head and began to scan his notes and print out copies for the league. "Deku, how would you like to get out and cause a bit of trouble?" said All For One in a wicked voice. "What's the trouble?" asked Midoriya as he kept scanning his notes. "Shigaraki has planned an attack on UA. If you're interested, talk to Shigaraki, he will fill you in." "Don't worry, I'll talk to him about your possible involvement," said All For One as the monitor switched off. "Guess I'll go. I don't want to get rusty only doing my workouts," said Midoriya as he looked at his scarred body in the mirror. "Guess I'll go talk to Shigaraki," he said to himself as walked next door to the league hideout. "I don't want him in my group, sensei," exclaimed Shigaraki at the monitor. Now, Shigaraki, you must make use of every available member of the league, and Deku is no common villain. Unlike most, he has the brain that could become the foundation for the league," explained All For One as he saw Midoriya walk in. "Deku, have you made up your mind?" asked All For One. "Yes. If it's okay with Shigaraki, I would like to be a part of the attack," said Midoriya as he sat down at the bar. "Fine. You can come," said Shigaraki as he scratched his wrist. "Good, then it's settled." Shigaraki filled Deku in with all the details. "Best of luck. I'll be attending to some other business meanwhile," said All For One as the screen went blank. "All right, Deku, here's the plan," said Shigaraki, annoyed as he began to explain the plan to Midoriya. "At the police station." "Midoriya, where did you go?" pondered Namasa. He had been obsessed with Midoriya and his case because of the promise he made to Inko Midoriya. So his shoes are here but then he's gone? It just doesn't make sense where he could be. Namasa thought as he looked over at his stain folder. He noticed a familiar building. He picked up the photo and brought it alongside the building where Midoriya's shoes were found. No, it can't be. Is Stain connected to Midoriya somehow? They both went missing the same day and around the same vicinity, said Namasa to himself as he tapped his foot. Shit, said Namasa frustrated as he rubbed his face. Just a bit more evidence and he'll be able to finish this puzzle and find you, Midoriya, thought Namasa as he got up from his desk and began to head out of the station. He bumped into an old friend. Hey Namasa, said the very skinny man. Toshinori, said Namasa, surprised to see Toshinori Yagi, his old friend most commonly known as All Might. I need a friend right now, said Toshinori. What's bothering you, Toshi? Asked Namasa as he poured tea for his friend and himself. I've been thinking of what I said to a young boy a while ago recently, said Toshinori as he held the tea in both hands. I told the boy he couldn't become a hero because he was quirkless, Toshinori explained as he took a sip of his tea. Well, you're not wrong, Toshinori. Being a hero nowadays is no easy feat even with a quirk. To be quirkless as well, the chances become very slim, responded Namasa as he looked at his friend. I know that, but I shattered his dream. I knew the moment I told him. I knew he was no longer going to be a hero. But I only said such a thing to protect him, said Toshinori as he clenched his fist. Listen, Toshinori, you did what you thought was right and that's what matters. You may be the symbol of peace but you're still only human, responded Namasa as he stared at his tea. Near the Midoriya household, Midoriya was searching for his mother, only sticking to the rooftops to avoid detection. As Midoriya looked around, he saw his mother walking into his old home with a single bag of groceries in hand. I'm sorry, Mom. I wish I could come back, thought Midoriya as a single tear fell down his cheek. Midoriya always made time in the week to see his mom even if he couldn't talk to her. One day, Mom, you'll see me again, I promise, said Midoriya as he began to go back to his apartment. Now let's go over the plan to kill All Might, said Shigaraki as he looked in Midoriya and Kurogiri's direction. Kill All Might? You sure about that, Shigaraki? Asked Midoriya as his eyes widened a bit. He wasn't informed about this in the last meeting. Midoriya knew All Might's strength was no joke and he may resent him, but wishing death upon another person was never his style. Sensei has prepared something incredible for the league, don't you worry, idiot, scowled Shigaraki as he began to scratch the palm of his hand. We will kill the symbol of peace tomorrow. Without a doubt, said Shigaraki with a creepy smile. Shigaraki went over the plan with Kurogiri and Midoriya, telling them what their roles would be. So Deku, you will back up Kurogiri, got that? Said Shigaraki, annoyed. Sure, Shigaraki, I'll do my best, responded Midoriya in a deadpan voice as he turned towards Kurogiri. Let's do this, Kurogiri, said Midoriya as he looked at the misty figure. I'm pleased to have you, Deku, Kurogiri responded. All right, I'll see you all later, said Shigaraki as he went to his room, still scratching his hand. Kurogiri, does Shigaraki hate me? Midoriya asked the Black Mist. I believe he hates everyone, but at times he can be very docile, responded Kurogiri with a chuckle. I see, well, good night, Kurogiri, said Midoriya as he bowed in respect to Kurogiri. To you as well, Kurogiri said as he bowed in return. All right then, first, said Aizawa as he was explaining the training, but before he could finish he was interrupted by a large black mist that began to appear behind him. Guess I'm a real villain now, thought Midoriya as he arranged his metal mask into place while stepping out of the mist along with Shigaraki, followed by a hulking monster with an exposed brain. What the hell is that, Shigaraki? Asked Midoriya, wary of the monster. It's called Inamu, just wait and see when it fights All Might, said Shigaraki as he let out a chuckle. A mass of low-ranking villains followed after. Aizawa quickly ran towards the massive villains, taking them out swiftly. Today is going to be interesting, said Midoriya as he quickly turned the knob on his mask and began to record. Deku, are you ready? said Kurogiri as he finished teleporting the rest of the villains. Midoriya nodded in his direction and they both were quickly on top of the students in Pro Hero 13. Midoriya stood, calmly next to the big mist that loomed over the group. I won't let you through. Nice to meet you. We are the League of Villains. I know it seems rude but we have invited ourselves into the home of heroes, high school, said Kurogiri as he stared down the group. We have come to have All Might take his last breath. I believe All Might should have been here. Was there a change in the schedule? Well, no matter. This is the part we are here to play, said Kurogiri. Midoriya recognized the red-haired boy as one of the top 10 entrance exam applicants. His name was Kirishima Jiro. Bukigou and Kirishima dashed towards the dark mist, making a loud explosion in process. Did you consider that you'd get beaten by us before you could? Shouted Kirishima. Oh dear, that's right. Even if you are students, you are excellent golden eggs, said Kurogiri as the dust cleared. But we have a golden egg ourselves and he shines brighter than all of you, said Kurogiri as Midoriya quickly dashed in front and kicked Kirishima right in the stomach, causing him to lose his breath and fall back into the group. In that instant Midoriya grabbed Bukigou by his gauntlet, throwing him into the students. My job is to scatter you all and make your life a living hell, shouted Kurogiri as he engulfed and scattered everyone except 5 students and 1 teacher. Shit, we still have 6 people. Kuro and 13's quirk is dangerous. It's basically a black hole, shouted Midoriya as he stared at the group. Midoriya recognized a couple of faces from the entrance exam but he didn't hold back against anyone. Tenya, you have to use your quirk and run and warn the other teachers, said 13 to the group as she turned to face Kurogiri and Deku. 13 activated her quirk and began to suck up Midoriya and Kurogiri. Midoriya quickly brought out his blade and sunk it into the floor so he could have something to hold on to. Kuro, open a portal in front of 13's finger and one aimed at 13's backside. 13 turned cold at the suggestion the masked villain made, but it was too late to react. Kurogiri quickly opened the portals and 13 nearly turned herself to dust. Everyone, that type of villain is the most dangerous kind. Be careful, said 13 to the students as she pointed towards Midoriya and passed out. Excellent suggestion, Deku, said Kurogiri as he composed himself. Kurogiri however received a telepathic message from one of the villains scattered with the students. Kurogiri, we have a problem in the collapsed building section, Sendai explained the villain before he was cut off. Damn. Deku, looks like you're going to have to back up some of our associates. I'll warp you there now. I can manage here on my own, Kurogiri explained as he opened a portal. Alright Kurogiri, I'm on it, responded Deku as he jumped through the portal. Midoriya was teleported to the collapsed zone. His objective was to help the villains with the 2 students present in the zone. Now where's, asked Midoriya as he was interrupted by a large explosion in one of the buildings. A smile grew across Midoriya's face. He knew who he had to take care of. Midoriya reached the building and made his way to the room of the explosion. That mist guy is how these punks are getting around. Beat him and they will have nowhere to run. And I have a general idea of how to beat him, explained Bukigou to Kirishima as a camouflaged gecko villain tried to stab Bukigou, to which he dodged and slammed his head into the floor, followed with an explosion. I mean, if all they are sending is these idiots, we should be fine, Bukigou said as he stood up. Kirishima was going to speak up but he was interrupted by a voice. Midoriya was greeted to multiple unconscious villains on the floor, some with extreme injuries. You know, for students this is guys need to hold back just a bit. However, what happens if you kill one of these guys? That's not very heroic, and that's coming from me. But, to be fair, they were trying to kill you guys, so fair trade, said Midoriya as he looked at Kirishima and Bukigou. Bukigou was a bit taken back by the voice of the villain. It was oddly similar to Deku's. Bukigou quickly snapped out of his trance and let out a devilish smile, looking in Midoriya's direction. To be honest, I wanted to fight you, but that mist guy threw us over here, said Bukigou as he lit up some explosions trying to intimidate the villain before him. Hey man, we should be careful, this guy seems tough, explained Kirishima, recalling the kick to the stomach he received not too long ago. Kirishima looked over to Bakugo, who wasn't paying attention. "Shut up. Let's just beat this guy to a bloody pulp," yelled Bakugo as he began his assault on Midoriya. Midoriya quickly saw through Bakugo's attack and remembered his notes on his fighting style. "Right swing," thought Midoriya as he grabbed his arm and threw him on the floor as hard as he could. Bakugo lost his breath at the sheer impact of being thrown on the floor. Midoriya followed up quickly with a kick to the side of his stomach, causing the blonde boy to skid against the floor and against a nearby wall. "Don't forget about me," shouted Kirishima as he hardened his body and ran towards Midoriya. So slow. Most likely due to his hardening quirk. He should have weak spots, however not everything can be hardened, said Midoriya to himself as he dodged Kirishima's tackle. Bakugo brought himself up, still coughing from the attack he had just received. "Foo fucker," said Bakugo, shooting a glance to his gauntlet, and at Midoriya. Kirishima ran towards Midoriya at full speed, hardening his body. Midoriya quickly grabbed Kirishima's arm, exposing a weak spot in his underarm, followed by a strong jab. Kirishima recoiled at the immense pain. Every quirk has a weakness. And every weakness can be exploited, said Midoriya as he looked at Bakugo, still coughing and catching his breath, and Kirishima, who was now holding his arm in pain. "Look, believe it or not, I'm not here to kill you guys. So stay down. Unless you want to leave this place with more than a couple bruises," said Midoriya as he looked at the students. "Please come at me again, Kakin. You have to pay for what you did to me for all those years," thought Midoriya as he looked over at Bakugo. "Like hell he'll stay down." Bakugo and Kirishima responded as they both ran towards Midoriya. Bakugo ran towards Midoriya, making a small explosion, propelling himself upward and behind Midoriya, causing a smoke screen in his face. In that instant, Kirishima quickly followed up with a hardened punch to Midoriya's stomach. "That was not good enough, unfortunately," Midoriya said with a slight cough. Midoriya quickly grabbed Bakugo's arm, which was pointed towards his back and ready to fire at full blast. Midoriya, however, placed Bakugo's hand right in Kirishima's face. "You're sweating quite a bit, Bakugo. How strong do you think this blast is going to be?" asked Midoriya calmly as he stepped to the side. Bakugo's face went cold and looked towards Kirishima, who couldn't see in front of him due to Bakugo's smokescreen. "Harden now," shouted Bakugo as a loud explosion shook the building. Kirishima went flying due to the explosion and his entire body slammed against the wall. Bakugo flew from the sheer force of his explosion and his back slammed against the wall. Bakugo's vision was blurry, but he looked in Kirishima's direction. Looking at his limp body, he grew cold at the thought that he may have killed a fellow student, and his hero career was now over. That blast was the strongest he had ever produced, and it was fired point blank at his face. Midoriya walked towards Kirishima calmly and inspected him. "Just a couple mean burns, the adrenaline got him to break his limit at the last second," said Midoriya as he looked at the red-haired boy who was unconscious. Midoriya began to walk away until he felt the sudden urge to help Kirishima and his burns. "Fuck, what am I even doing? He's going to be fine," said Midoriya as he got out his healing ointment and placed it on his burn marks and bruises. Bakugo was extremely surprised to see a villain was helping his classmate. "Deku, we need you at the front now," shouted Shigaraki into Midoriya's earpiece. "Did I hear Deku? No, that nerd could never beat me, plus his quirkless. This guy definitely has a quirk, him sure of it," Bakugo said in his mind. "I'm on my way," responded Midoriya as he jumped out the shattered window. "Hey, where do you think you're going, fucker?" shouted Bakugo as he jumped out the window and used his explosions to propel himself towards Midoriya, attempting to kick him in the head. Midoriya quickly blocked and grabbed his leg, throwing him away. "Just give up, you have lost already. Go, help your friend, he sure as hell needs it," shouted Midoriya so Bakugo could hear him. "I never lose. That idiot was just getting in my way anyway," Bakugo shouted back, lifting up his gauntlet and aiming it towards Midoriya with a grin on his face. He has way too much confidence in that gauntlet. Judging by its design, Midoriya was thinking when he was interrupted. "Die, scum," shouted Bakugo as he pulled the pin. A massive concentrated high-speed explosion came towards Midoriya. Shit, that's going to hurt and the street is too narrow to dodge. I'll have to take it head on. I hope those improvements I made work," shouted Midoriya as he prepared himself and took the blast head on, only covering his face. "Hey, how did you like that fucker?" said Byakuya as he held onto his now sore arm. "Ouch, now that's dangerous. You could have killed me if I was just any other villain." "No way." Byakuya choked up. Midoriya's costume held up to the explosion and only had a couple burn marks but nothing too major. His hood however was completely burned off, exposing his green hair and green eyes. "Shit, once the dust clears he's going to see me. I have to end this now," Midoriya thought as he put all his strength into his legs and dashed at Byakuya at incredible speed. Byakuya was looking at the dust and for a split second he saw a green blur emerge and his vision became blurry. He had just gotten punched square inches the jaw at full force. "Fuck, I have to regroup," said Midoriya as he began to go towards Shigaraki's location. "What's going on, Kurogiri?" asked Midoriya as he arrived at the scene. "One of the students slipped from my grasp. He most likely is on his way to alert the other pros," explained Kurogiri to Midoriya. "Is that Eraserhead on the floor?" Midoriya asked, surprised to see the hero beaten to a bloody pulp. Towering above him was Anamu. "It's game over, huh? If you weren't a warp gate it'd crush you into pieces," said Shigaraki as he scratched his neck and began mumbling to himself. Midoriya realized two students in the water trying to watch in secret what was happening before them. "What are they doing here? Do they want to die?" Midoriya said to himself as he began walking towards the two students pretending not to see them. "Hey Kurogiri, I'm going to do a little recon," said Midoriya as he kept walking. Kurogiri nodded in confirmation in return. Midoriya knew, despite Shigaraki's appearance, his quirk and speed were dangerous. In the water the green-haired girl Tsuasui and the grape-looking boy Minoru Minato began to get nervous as Midoriya got closer and closer. Midoriya reached the edge of the water and turned his back pretending not to see them both. "You two, if you don't want to die here and now, I suggest you group with the rest of your classmates," Midoriya said, facing Shigaraki, who was still having a breakdown. Tsu was surprised at the villain's offer. "Why help us? Why not kill us?" asked the green-haired girl, genuinely confused and afraid. Minato was far too afraid to say anything. "You're too young. And killing just isn't my thing. Now, leave," said Midoriya as he began to walk back towards Shigaraki and Kurogiri. Tsu quickly grabbed the Minato and swam back to the front of the dome. "He seemed about our age. Why is he a villain? Why did he help us?" the girl pondered as she glanced back to see the green-haired villain. "We won't stand a chance against a dozen pros. So let's go kill some of his pride before we go," said Shigaraki as he let out a small chuckle. Shigaraki began to run towards the front of the dome with Namu eyes set on killing you. "Hey students." Kurogiri and Midoriya quickly followed behind. "Has just going to leave Eraserhead. Fine by me," thought Midoriya as he looked at the group of students who were now all together, all except three. Midoriya and his group arrived at the bottom of a set of stairs. Just above them was the group of students. Now then, but before Shigaraki could even finish, a large boom could be heard in the direction of the students. A large muscular man appeared from the smoke. It was All Might. All Might quickly dashed down the stairs and swiftly took out the few remaining low-rank villains. Ignoring Midoriya and his group, All Might ran towards Aizawa, quickly picking him up and returning him to the group of students to look over him. Midoriya couldn't help but let out a smile at the sight of All Might and his quirk. "You have caused too much pain. 2 students are missing." "Where are they?" yelled All Might at the group of 3 standing before him. "I think I left them both in a ditch somewhere." "Don't worry, they aren't dead, but they sure are in pain," said Midoriya coldly while looking at All Might straight in the eyes. "You!" All Might shouted as his blood grew cold at the sight of 2 students being near death and bloodied. Shigaraki however let out a cracked and evil smile at Midoriya's comment to All Might. But before anything else could be said, All Might moved like sound, hitting Shigaraki and Kurogiri away. Midoriya however saw his attack and barely dodged by a hair. Namu however was idle as if he was turned off. Midoriya quickly backed up back into his group. What? He dodged? If he was able to keep up with me, I wonder in what state my students are in? And what quirk does he possess? All Might thought as he looked at the green-haired villain. I will bring you three to justice, it's my duty as the symbol of peace, All Might said as he dashed towards the group at high speed. Namu, said Shigaraki as the monster quickly stepped in front and looked at All Might who was coming towards them. The plan was for Namu to restrain All Might so Kurogiri could use his mist portal to cut All Might in half, but Namu and All Might began to exchange blows, instantly causing massive shockwaves and air pressure. Without students around he can go all out, Midoriya thought as he held onto a nearby tree watching the fight unfold before him. Shigaraki, we aren't going to be able to get close to him anytime soon, shouted Midoriya as he looked over to Shigaraki. Shut up, I know. Namu won't lose, he was made to beat All Might, responded Shigaraki as he watched Namu begin to be pushed back. Made to defeat me? Scoffed All Might as he began to punch Namu with even greater speed. Now villains, have you heard these words before? Go beyond plus ultra, yelled All Might triumphantly as he delivered a devastating blow to Namu, sending him flying out of the dome. In my prime I would have ended it in 5 punches. Now then villains, shall we end this? Well? What's wrong? Come and get me if you can, said All Might, putting on his most intimidating face as the dust settled around him. You're out of time and that's the best bluff you got, thought Midoriya as he looked at All Might and to Shigaraki who backed up in response to All Might's words. Midoriya knew All Might's time limit had already run out. Shigaraki, we have to retreat. If that student got away, it's only a matter of time the rest of the pros get here and put us in the ground, explained Midoriya as he looked over to Shigaraki who was scratching at his neck furiously. What? No, the final boss is right in front of us, we can still kill him, responded Shigaraki as he got ready to attack. Kurogiri, be prepared to retreat, said Midoriya. Kurogiri nodded in confirmation. In that moment Shigaraki and Kurogiri attacked All Might, only to be interrupted by a bullet piercing Shigaraki's hand. They having a long-range pro, he can home in his bullets. You won't be able to finish the job, let's go Shigaraki, said Midoriya as he looked at the teachers at the front. Grrr, fine. Kurogiri, let's get out of, Shigaraki said before he was interrupted by 2 bullets each hitting one of his legs. Listen to me next time, said Midoriya as he began to be engulfed by mist along with Shigaraki. Shut up, Deku, Shigaraki yelled in response. And just like that they warped out of So his name is Deku, thought All Might as he watched the young villain warp away. Chapter 6. Back at the League of Villains hideout. Grrr. We all lost. All Might isn't weak at all, you were wrong, sensei, shouted Shigaraki at the monitor. Now Shigaraki, it seems we have bitten more than we chew. Rise up Shigaraki and try again, it is not the end, said All for One calmly. Midoriya and Kurogiri were at the bar listening into the conversation. If it wasn't for Deku we could have killed All Might, he held me back, scowled Shigaraki as he shot a glare at Midoriya. Midoriya in turn just stared back at Shigaraki with cold eyes. If it wasn't for me we would all be in jail or dead, Shigaraki, Midoriya responded. Shigaraki, had it not been for Deku you would now be in the hands of heroes. Deku is unlike other villains, he provides us a tactical advantage over the heroes with his quick thinking. Tamura. Deku, I thank you for accompanying Tamura. All for One explained. My pleasure, sensei, Midoriya responded while bowing in respect to the monitor. Back at I-16, 17 and the other 2 are in the infirmary, said Namasa, counting all the students outside the training building. The police had come to pick up and arrest the beaten villains and take them to jail. Detective Asui said, approaching Namasa. Yes, responded Namasa looking up from his notebook. Is it okay for me to ask who was injured in the villain's assault? Asked Asui with a concerned look on her face. Well, both of Aizawa's arms were broken to splinters and he is suffering from overusing his quirk and may suffer from blurred vision. However, only time will tell. 13 is suffering from lacerations all over his back and All Might only had a couple scratches. As for your classmates, however, Bakugo and Kirishima were just found in the dome unconscious not too long ago. Kirishima is suffering from minor injuries, however Bakugo had a broken jaw and is being treated by the school nurse. Namasa explained to Asui and the rest of the class. Bakugo and Kirishima both lost? Aren't Bakugo and Kirishima crazy strong? Muttered some of the students, clearly surprised. Students, if you have any information to tell us, make sure to inform the principal. Be safe out there. Namasa said as he walked over to talk to Nezu, the principal of. Principal, I know this may seem sudden, but if it's okay with you and the other teachers, I would like word with them all as soon as possible. It's regarding the attack. And someone who I think may be involved, Namasa asked Nezu, showing the utmost respect to the principal. Of course. I would like all teachers present, however as soon as Aizawa is out and about I will arrange a meeting. Nezu responded. Thank you. Now I'll be taking my leave, principal, have a good evening. Namasa said as he bowed, and went back to his squad car. 2 days later. All the teachers were in a conference room. Thank you all for meeting me here. As you all know, and its students were attacked. From what we know now, the 3 main villains involved are working under an alias. Furthermore, we have searched all their names and quirks in every registry and came up with nothing. This means they are all underground villains, no names, no records. Shigaraki Tamura is who we believe to be in charge of the attack on Kurogiri, and Deku are his accomplices. Shigaraki Tamura possesses a disintegration while Kurogiri has a warp gate. He was the one who was able to get them into undetected. As for his final ally, I would like to discuss him last. Namasa explained as he reviewed his notes before continuing. Namasa explained the rest of the situation to the teachers while receiving their feedback on the situation. Now I mentioned Shigaraki Tamura's final associate Deku. As far as we don't know what quirk he possesses at this moment. Namasa said, looking around the room. All Might was interested in this villain in particular since he was able to keep up with his speed and was the one responsible for hurting 2 of his students. I recently spoke to multiple students on this particular villain. And I can now say for certain he was the one responsible for Bakugo and Kirishima's injuries. Namasa explained. So this is the villain who beat one of our top students. He seems very dangerous indeed. I am extremely glad Bakugo and Kirishima did not receive fatal injuries. However, what puzzles me is why this villain didn't kill our students. Said Nezu, looking over to Namasa. I may have an idea, principal. I was assigned an investigation regarding the hero killer and can now say the villain who was working alongside Stain is the same villain. Stain, as we all know, is a murderer with a crusade to purge fake heroes. Stain went silent, however, for nearly a year for no apparent reason. However, when he reappeared, he now had sidekick. In a twist of events, Stain's sidekick showed no interest in murder. Deku, his sidekick, even held Stain back from finishing his victims during his time with him. I also received a statement from the student Asui regarding this particular villain, stating he advised and allowed her to escape before being killed by Shigaraki Tamura. Also mentioned the villain sounded fairly young. Right now I have one theory, but it is too early to say at this moment. However, I can say for certain he is the same age as the students in Class 1A. Namasa explained to the heroes. Such a shame seeing someone so young turn into villain, said Nezu sadly as he looked down at his paws. So young, thought All Might as he clenched his fist in frustration. He allowed students to escape? He doesn't murder? He doesn't sound much like a real villain to me. Said Vlad King with a right push. I believe he can become a hero. Said Nezu. Yes, but even so he is still a villain, so do not hesitate to bring him to justice. Said Namasa as he collected his notes. That was all I wanted to talk about at this time. Thank you all for your time, Namasa concluded as he bowed to the heroes. It's still too early to assume Deku and Midoriya are the same person. But for now I'll collect more evidence. I promise I'm going to bring you your son, ma'am. Namasa thought as he walked to his car in Class 1A as Sports Festival is approaching. This is your chance to show the world and top pros what you are made of. Show them what you got. This is a big step into becoming a hero. said Aizawa, who looked much like a mummy with all his bandages. All of Class 1A began to radiate energy. Pumped, shouted Kirishima. Even after what just happened, I'm ready for the future, responded Sero quickly. Bukigu was excited for the festival, however he was extremely angry at himself for losing to a villain. If I ever see that guy again, I'm going to kill him, Bukigu said in his head as he broke his pencil in his hand. In Midoriya's apartment, I'm kinda anxious for my next assignment. Being out in the field is better than being holed up or hiding in the shadows, said Midoriya out loud as he arranged all his quirk files. Midoriya had many cabinets full of data on heroes and villains alike, each explaining a quirk's uses, improvements, and weaknesses. Deku, my boy. Good afternoon, I have an assignment for you, said All for One as the monitor mounted on the wall switched on. Ah, sensei, it's always a pleasure, said Midoriya as he bowed towards the monitor. Likewise, Deku. Now as for your assignment, I'm going to have you attend the esports festival and record some quirks for the league, said All for One looking towards Midoriya. I understand, sensei, I'll do my best, responded Midoriya nodding in confirmation. One more thing, Deku. I'm going to have Kurogiri cut your hair and dye it black. We can't have you being spotted after what happened at explained All for One. That's not a problem. Have a good day, sensei, replied Midoriya as the monitor switched off. I hope the assignment goes smoothly, sighed Midoriya as he fell on his back on his bed. At the esports festival, Midoriya now had short black hair and was wearing his blue contacts along with a normal red sweater. The festival seems very lively. Maybe I could get a bite to eat while I find my way to my seat, thought Midoriya as he dodged the masses and found his way to the stadium. This one of the best seats. Guess sensei isn't short of money, said Midoriya as he looked over to his seat. All eyes are on Class 1A for surviving the league's attack. On one hand they have more pros watching them, and on the other everyone will call out every single mistake. I don't know why they handed everyone raffle tickets, they never did this before. Doesn't matter, I'm not here to have fun. Now then, show me your quirks, said Midoriya as he pulled out his notebook and a voice recorder. Midnight took the stand and began to speak. Quite the hero they have. People like you make heroes look bad, Midnight, said Midoriya giving off an annoyed face. And your student representative is from Class 1A, Katsuki Bukigu, said Midnight as Bukigu slowly took the stage. The athlete's oath. Make no mistake, I'm going to crush you all and take first. Make yourself good stepping stones for me, said Bukigu as he walked off the stage with an angry expression. That's Kaken, I guess, said Midoriya as he looked down at all the students. The festival took place and every student with a noteworthy quirk was recorded by Midoriya. All the festival finals took place and ended with Bukigu taking first place. Midoriya made sure to record the entire festival on his TV just in case. So Kaken won, huh? Guess that Todoroki hates his left side. Probably has something to do with his father Endeavor, murmured Midoriya to himself, taking down more notes on the finalists. The medals were soon given out to the top 3, but before the festival could finish, Midnight spoke up. Everyone, if you look at your raffle ticket, we will now reveal the winner, said Midnight, as she began to read off the winning number. Maybe they will give out some big prize, thought Midoriya as he looked at his ticket. 5F3-4, if you have this ticket please come on down center stage, said Midnight. 5-90, huh? Guess I lost, said Midoriya as he got up from his seat and began to walk down the stairs to the exit. It seems as if 5F3-4 did not show up. The next number is 5-90, please if you have this number come on down, said Midnight loudly. Midoriya's ears piped up at the sound of his number being called. Well, what do you know, said Midoriya as he walked up to the security and showed them his ticket. The festival security escorted him to the center stage. Now the prize. The raffle winner gets a photo with Class 1A, said Midnight as she signaled Midoriya over. Shit, why can't it be a normal prize like a stupid plushie or food? God, I wish it was food. Midoriya cursed to himself, walking to Midnight. Now then, what's your name? And how old are you? Asked Midnight. My name is Haru Tanaka. And I'm 15. Said Midoriya, masking his voice. Haru, are you ready for your photo with Class 1A? Said Midnight. Sure, said Midoriya, standing at the center of the class. All of Class 1A smiled for the photo at the exception of a select few. The photographer quickly took the photo and handed a copy to Midoriya. Midoriya, standing at the center of the class. All of Class 1A smiled for the photo at the exception of a select few. The photographer quickly took the photo and handed a copy to Midoriya. Thanks, said Midoriya as he grabbed the picture and walked to the exit without saying another word. Midoriya couldn't lie to himself. A part of him still wanted to be a hero and have a normal life. Don't look back, Midoriya, that isn't your path anymore, said Midoriya to himself as he walked back to his apartment. Purge. I must purge all the fake heroes, said Stain as he looked over his latest victim, the pro hero Ingenio.